Meeting number 34, the House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, also known as the Mighty OGGO. So up until 4:30, I apologize to our witnesses. We'll compress the time a bit. We'll go to 4:30 with our two witnesses on the National Shipbuilding Strategy. We'll be back in. Thanks, everyone, for your patience. Our order of the day is a study of the ArriveCan App. We have three witnesses with us, Mr. Darren Anthony, Mr. Christian Firth, and Mr. Mark Weber. I understand Mr. Weber, who's virtual, has been tested for the sound and his mic, and everything is in accordance with the needs for our translators, so thanks very much. Mr. Firth, I understand you're starting with a 5-minute statement?
Not 5 minutes, but I am starting, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chair.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair and honourable committee members, I'm looking forward to answering questions you may have and allow us to get the information out on the table. As I was lead on this file, I'm able to answer questions for GC Strategies. My business partner and I have in combination over 30 years of IT staffing experience with the Government of Canada. GC Strategies was founded in 2015 and is an IT staffing firm that has a proven record of successful engagements with government departments. We have built teams and provided subject matter experts for many projects for over 20 federal departments during our tenure. We have built a very strong network of best-in-class talent that allow us to help our clients find the team they want and have the ability to scale up and down as necessary. When the government approached us to staff a team under their management and direction for a time and material engagement, we did so. Every individual we used was approved, government security clearances were verified, and given their specific tasks and deliverables by the government. To be clear, we did not build ArriveCan. We were approached to provide a team for consideration to fulfill certain ArriveCan requirements. We are, however, very proud of the team we gave the Government of Canada and who they managed to give direction to throughout the project. They never missed a deadline and they completed all their tasks and deliverables. Thank you. I am now open to questions.
Great. Mr. Weber, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
I understand you have an opening statement.
I do, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Please, up to 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you here today. My name is Mark Weber. I'm the National President of the Customs and Immigration Union, which represents personnel working for the Canada Border Services Agency. From the point of view of the union representing those who every day are hard at work protecting our borders and ensuring safe and efficient cross-border operations, what's perhaps most vexing about ArriveCan is how it was developed without any meaningful consultation with or input from frontline officers. Not when the idea was first proposed, not when the app was initially developed, and definitely not at any point during one of the more than 70 updates that the app had to undergo. This is certainly par for the course for the agency, and regrettably, frontline officers are used to this. Still, it defies reason that an application designed for the front line would be developed without involving those who serve on the front line and who know what works and what doesn't. It defies reason that the government would insist on continuing to inject capital into a project that neither facilitates nor enhances border processes, all the while claiming that it does, and without any consideration for what's actually going on at the border. What defies reason the most is that all of this is going on while our border services are facing a severe staffing crisis. To say that there is a deficit of between 2,000 and 3,000 border officers at this very moment is not an exaggeration. By choosing to sink dozens of millions of dollars into ArriveCan while its border services workforce is understaffed and overworked, the federal government is simply gambling with Canada's ability to maintain a safe and properly functioning border. ArriveCan is certainly not unique at CBSA. It's one example in a long line of far-reaching technological band-aid solutions in search of a problem. Solutions that ultimately fail to enhance border security and effectiveness in any real way. What they also have in common is that they are always developed without involving the frontline personnel who actually work at the border. From our perspective, what the government and CBSA can learn from the ArriveCan experience is that if they want to effectively and properly manage our borders while ensuring that the projects designed to do so are sound, they must rely on and seek out the expertise of frontline border officers in a meaningful way. Our members are proud of the work they do. They're proud of serving Canadians, and I know they would jump at the opportunity to help improve our border processes. In conclusion, it's my hope that the union's input will assist this committee in its important work. I thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
We'll go to Mr. Barrett for 6 minutes, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks to the witnesses for starting early following those technical glitches that we had. To GC Strategies, Mr. Firth, how many employees do you have?
We have 2 employees, myself and my business partner.
Okay. And your contract with the Government of Canada lists your work as a residential address. Is that correct? I don't need the address, but is that correct?
Yeah, we had physical location downtown from 2015 to 2020, and we now have home offices.
And without getting into your detailed CV, are you programmers or app designers yourselves?
Absolutely not. We are IT recruiters. We cut our teeth in the industry working for large staffing firms.
Okay.
And we decided to go out by ourselves.
So in this context, your work for the Government of Canada, you're the broker, the middleman between the government and the service provider. Is that correct?
Essentially, yeah. They would come to us with the requirements they ask for, and we facilitate that.
And what's the when we're talking about the full scope of this project, lots of publicly reported numbers, what is the commission for that intermediary, that middleman role? We're led to understand that it's 30%.
That would be at the very top end. Industry standards are anywhere from 15 to 30, depending on the skill set, the type of resource that is required.
Now, regarding the app, who approached who? So the Government of Canada reached out to you, and you did not reach out to them with respect to this contract. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And do you have a list of the department and the departmental officials who initiated that contact?
No, I do not. I thought I was here to testify. I do not have that with me right now.
Okay, is that something that and so with respect to this question, is that something that you will undertake to provide to this committee in writing?
Within 48 hours, I could probably.
Okay, that's great. I appreciate that. Thank you. So today, right before I have a question about some news that was reported today, but I am curious about the total amount of money that your company received from the Government of Canada for the app, for the ArriveCan app.
For the specific component we were responsible for the application?
Yes.
Yep. So, GC Strategies we've invoiced about $44 million over the past 2 years for all of our federal work.
Yep.
With over 20 departments. But the component of the application, we were responsible for staffing, which included 2 years of support and maintenance and over 150 releases on 3 platforms. We were approximately billed $4.5 million per year.
Okay. Today, the CEO of a company called Think On said that his company had nothing to do with ArriveCan. This is reported in the Globe and Mail, and it says, quote, "We have received no money from CBSA," and, quote, "We're not even remotely in that space," end quote. So our understanding is that your organization facilitated the design and build of this app and connected all the components. So what role did Think On play?
So first, sorry, Honourable Speaker, we are an IT staffing firm. We actually have no influence whatsoever in day-to-day activities or have any influence on how it's architected or how it's built. We provided a team that they asked for that designed a specific ArriveCan component. I cannot comment on anything outside of the bit that we were facilitating for the government.
Are you aware of the government reported in response to a question tabled by a member in the House of Commons that for work on ArriveCan, a company called Think On Inc. received a $1.2 million contract. Were you aware of that?
Again, I cannot comment on it. I was not part of that, and I was not aware of that.
You weren't aware?
No.
Okay. So in terms of the total cost of the app, when the government reported that $1.2 million was given there, does that cause you concern that they said that $1.2 million went to a company that now says they didn't receive $1.2 million?
The reality is, I'm I can only comment on what I was responsible for and what we engaged on. That's what I have knowledge of. I cannot comment on things that I wasn't part of.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And you know, our concern here is to find out, you know, if someone is saying that they were paid, that an organization was paid $1.2 million, and then that organization said that they didn't receive $1.2 million, that there's a lie there, and we've got to source that. We've got to figure that out. The committee passed a motion requiring documents to be turned over, a list of contractors, subcontractors, breakdown of costs, list of contracts, all RFPs, invoices. Do you have that? Are you in receipt of that request for documents?
Well, sorry, we were contacted on Tuesday.
Okay.
And I think you have to have 5 days to even submit information,
Right.
which didn't fall in place. But we were never told we had to provide anything. We were just
Okay.
told that we had to be here for testimony.
Okay. Are you willing to provide the committee with the documents that I just referenced?
Well, my understanding was the government. You've asked the federal government to provide those for you.
Right, and so we find ourselves in a situation where we're checking people's homework, unfortunately.
Okay.
The government's saying one thing, and now we're looking to the private sector to find out what was paid. And so things like total amount received from the government of Canada for the app, a number which you've referenced, that the names of all subcontractors, delivery partners, how much they were paid, deliverables, proof that some subcontractors have security clearances, and that all work was done in Canada. Is that information that you'd be able to provide to this committee?
And so I can speak on behalf of it right now.
I'm
So
afraid I'm going to have to interrupt, and we're going to go to our next round with Mr. Housefather, but I'm sure we can get back to it next round. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for coming. So if I understand this correctly, you are a company that does what many companies in the industry do, right? You don't retain employees on staff because you don't know what projects you're going to have. You have a large group of people that are experts in certain subject matters, and you assemble them for your clients when and if the client has a project. Would that be accurate to say?
that's accurate.
And is that and do many companies, including in the private sector, use firms like yours to develop large-scale applications like ArriveCan?
Yes, they do.
Perfect. And so when you are approaching, and let me start by asking, did any politician ever come to you and say, you know, let's negotiate a contract, or was it always staff members of a department?
It was the staff members of the department that came and engaged us on a conversation.
And have you ever negotiated anything with anybody who was a public office holder, or was it only staff?
Only staff.
Perfect. And when the staff came to you and said, hey, can you go out and assemble this great group of people, did they say anything like, please make sure you get liberal donors and liberal supporters to be the people that come work for us?
No, that was never happened.
It was a completely apolitical decision where you assembled the best possible team that you could assemble.
Yeah, I mean, they came to us because we have a proven track record of providing these skill sets and teams for them to review.
And as you stated, the team that you assembled, they delivered what they were supposed to deliver on time.
Yeah, they never missed a deadline and completed over 150 releases in 2 years.
And let me ask another question. On this project, I think you said you built, related to ArriveCan, approximately $4.5 million each year, so about $9 million total.
Yes.
That is not profit to you, right? That is your cost, where you are getting money from the government and you are paying the people that you engaged to work on this project, correct?
Yeah. We were not given $9 million. We have billed $9 million through a time and material engagement.
Exactly. And as you said, your markup was in industry standard levels?
Between 15 and 30%, yeah.
In 30%. Okay, perfect. I'm not going to pry further into that. Let me also understand, because you're saying that you didn't supervise the people. When you say that, you did supervise certain aspects of their task, right? You know, like for example, since you were the employer of record, you would have made sure that they got to work and they did, and they were doing the job that they were supposed to. You just weren't directing them as to the technical specifications they were supposed to build. Would that be correct?
Yes. So obviously, everybody was working during this pandemic. This is the whole reason we built this application. Everybody was working from home. But it was the project managers and the team leads provided by the organization that would be monitoring and maintaining and making sure we would only get called if they weren't performing and they needed to have a resource replaced.
And the manager of the team, for example, did you assemble just people who were working for a manager within the government, or did you also have a team manager of the people that you assembled?
There was a combination of both.
Combination of both. So how many managers did you have amongst the people that you engaged of the contractors?
The employees or the?
Yeah, your employees who were subcontractors to the government.
Yes.
How many people total was the team, and how many were managers?
Over the tenure, there were 5 or 6 subject matter firms that each had their project leads.
Each had their project lead. Okay, perfect. I know that you guys are not technical, but you certainly, I imagine, understand enough about what was built to be able to distinguish between a hackathon where people, take plans that were already developed over the course of a weekend, don't build a back office that speaks to the CBSA system, don't build in the needs for vaccination proofs to come in, versus what people did over 18 months of complex engineering. Could you speak to me about how we would best differentiate what happened over a weekend versus what you put a team together to create over 18 months? Like, for example, as somebody coming from the industry, the way I would look at it is almost, you build the plans for a race car that can go 300 kilometers an hour, and the race car is set to the best safety standards. And then somebody, after 2 years of work on this, will copy the plans and build a model of the car that doesn't have to drive and doesn't need to meet safety standards. Would that be a fair analogy?
Yeah. I'm glad you referenced. I am not a technologist. I'm a generalist, but I fundamentally understand that. I know, again, what we were chaired to do. I know that we did a very good job and we executed on everything. But from what I read, there was the things that were mentioned that wasn't considered were, my understanding, again, we weren't part of that, were some of the most intricate and most detailed pieces, which was, like you said, back-end integration. There's legacy systems that the organization has that needed work. There's the vaccinations. There was a lot of stuff that was way outside. I mean, there was a quote that I saw that we can all trace the Mona Lisa, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, so those who would try to paint what happened over a weekend versus the app that you helped the government of Canada develop, it would be a totally unfair comparison. It's not apples to apples. It's apples to an orchard, right?
Exactly, yes.
Mr. Chair, how much time do I have left, sir? 29 seconds. Well, given that I won't be able to finish any real question, that I just want to thank both of you for coming today. I know it's not easy coming before our parliamentary committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Housefather. Mrs. Vinola for 6, please.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur Firth, si je comprends.
Mr. Firth, if I've understood correctly. Mr. Firth, if I understood correctly, you are the intermediary, and you received $4.5 million for your services. Were you directly involved in the production? I can't find the right word. In the programming of ArriveCan? Or was this done by the people you chose for the government who were responsible for programming ArriveCan?
All of this work was followed. We're an IT staffing firm. We are not involved. We have no direction on the projects or the objectives. We're not in any conversations for budgeting or cost controls. We have quality control, which is if a resource isn't performing, we will then work with the government to replace that. But to answer your question, our team, under the guidance and supervision of the federal government, was responsible for the programming, the development, and everything.
Okay.
But again, only certain aspects of ArriveCan, not the full overall build.
Combien de personnes est-ce que vous avez trouvé en tout et pour tout pour
Altogether, how many people did you find to work with you on ArriveCan?
During the 2 years, it scaled up and down. So the team can be anything from, the lowest number was 17 or 18, up to 25 to 30.
Okay.
Okay. Yesterday, during question period, the Prime Minister said that of the $54 million reported in the media, there were future costs. Can you give me more information about what this expression future costs means?
I can comment on exactly what we did, which was, again, a component which was responsible for the mobile and web application, and subsequently the 150 releases plus that came out over the 3 years. So for the future costs would be maintaining the staff until, depending on if the pandemic comes back up and whenever the decision is to do with ArriveCan moving forward. But that the application still needs to be maintained
OK.
while it's still in service.
Et ça, c'est
And that's your responsibility to maintain the updates of ArriveCan as long as the application is necessary, if I've understood correctly. You're the one who has to do that?
Again, the team that we provided that was approved by the federal government and takes direction from them, yet that would be part of their tasks and deliverables that the government outlined for each individual resource.
OK.
Okay. So we're talking about $54 million. You were telling us that you received $4.5 million per year over 2 years. So that's a total of $9 million in contracts. Now, were you hired directly, or was there a call for tenders so that several companies could offer their services?
Yeah, so the government came to us and asked us to put together a team to help them carry out their
Okay.
COVID objectives. We did this process and it continued for about 2 years.
OK. Donc, un fournisseur unique.
So you were a sole supplier.
The contract was a sole supplier, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
the engagement was, and why they chose us, my understanding is we'll be asking the same question to CBSA and PSBC, is like as previous pressure, we're good at what we do. We have a proven track record working with the government and other projects, providing best-in-class talent.
Okay.
We had already been engaged with them since early 2019 and had provided a team on projects with similar skill sets and knew they could
Yes.
deliver.
Merci.
Thank you. Of the $54 million that the newspapers reported on, as I've mentioned, $9 million of that was granted to you, as we know. Do you think that $54 million for the entire ArriveCan program, including advertising, training here and abroad, is a cost which is unreasonable? Or, given the situation, is this perhaps high but reasonable? Or is this an extremely reasonable cost?
I can only really speak of the component that we staffed for the government. And again, they never missed a deadline. They worked over 150 releases across 3 platforms and maintained all of those for 2 years. So I think the $9 million that we charged is value for money.
À travers le monde, est-ce que vous connaissez d'autres entreprises qui ont été
Are you familiar with any other companies who were approached in any other countries to do essentially the same job that you did for Canada?
No, I'm assuming they just were not considered because they don't have valid Government of Canada security clearances, which are put out in PSPC as obligatory for any government contract.
Quelle faille que vous voyez dans l'espèce
What problems do you see with the ArriveCan clone that was done in 2 days, if there is any shortcoming in that? What's the difference between that clone that was done for a marketing purpose and what your teams were able to produce?
And I'm going to interrupt here because we're at 6 minutes. If we don't have time for an answer for our next round, maybe you can provide that to the committee in writing. Mr. Johns, for 6 minutes, please.
Sorry, just again, can you clarify how many employees you have?
We have 2 employees.
The 2 of you? Okay. And so, and you live here in Ontario, I take it?
Yeah.
Okay. And, you know, any of your contractors, do they work outside of Canada?
No.
Not a single, not a subcontractor? No one's outside of Canada? Okay.
They all have Canadians.
Okay, okay. Now, in terms of the commission, you talked about, is that commission based on the 9 million? You're in the 15 to 30% of the 9 million?
Yep.
Can you give us an idea? Are you up in the 30 or the 15?
It's I cannot give you the exact numbers. I mean, my finance system doesn't go as intricate as that, but it's between. That's why I try to give you a bracket.
Sure. So you made between, my math is 1.35 million to 2.7 million between the 2 of you. You can't tell me what number in between that.
They,
I mean, I usually pretty know, like most people know how much they made.
Yep. So no, that would be accurate. That would be accurate. I mean, pre-tax, of course. Sure.
Okay, okay. And that's over 2 years, the 2 of you. Okay, are you doing other contracts as well on top of this?
Yep. We what I mentioned previously.
Okay. I'm going to go to Mr. Weber. Mr. Weber, do you have any idea of how much could have been saved by developing this capacity in-house rather than contracting out the development of this app?
Thank you. So I don't. Again, we were not consulted on any part of this process. At no point were us or anyone working at the front line asked how this should be done, sourced, or put together.
Do you see this as a systemic issue at the CBSA where we're seeing inflated contracts going to outside companies when they could be developed internally? And maybe you can speak about what needs to be done to ensure we can deliver services like this in-house and make sure we're supporting unionized workers or hiring more unionized workers.
Again, thank you. That's something that we do support. Right now, we do need other kinds of technology and other kinds of improvements to our borders. We have borders operating with no X-ray machines. We have marine ports with no boats. The situation in a lot of our ports of entry is dire, and as I said earlier, we do need a lot more frontline officers than we currently have. We'd estimate between 2,000 and 3,000. So when we look at things like ArriveCan, it's really like, I mean, you're almost putting up wallpaper before you've built the foundation. Our foundation really needs a lot of work, and that foundation is the officers who work the border.
So within CBSA, how can we ensure that IT specialists are being hired as part of the union that works for the government and not hired on contract?
I mean, that's something that I hope the CBSA would look at. It's something that we encourage and push for. Again, we're talking about IT specifically here, but other than IT, I think when we look at figures like $54 million, I mean, that could have done a lot more good than what was done with the ArriveCan app, which really hasn't done much for us. It hasn't done anything for border security, and it's done nothing to speed up processing times at our borders. Yeah,
speaking to that, like how far could $54 million go in addressing staff issues at CBSA, you know, that right now we're experiencing? And the staffing shortages predate the, you know, in terms of predating the pandemic, you can also speak about that issue, never mind.
Yeah.
And can you comment on how many officers are actually needed to address the current staffing issues?
Across the entire country, we estimate between 2,000 and 3,000. If we're looking at a figure like 54 million by our rough math, we could probably hire about 500 additional officers with that, which would be a really good start. Right now, one of the other difficulties we have is that the one college that we do training at can only graduate just under 600 people a year, which really just barely covers attrition. So we don't have any ability right now to get those numbers up to what they need to be at.
How's the morale in the union when they hear that 54 million was spent on an app and 500 more officers could have been hired instead?
I mean, the morale is it's really low. Every port that I go to visit, you would think as a union president, one of the first things that comes up as a topic is union issues, labor issues. We currently have no contract, and I could tell you the members that I speak with across the country, the first thing they say is we need more people. We cannot do our jobs anymore. We have ports operating on almost unlimited overtime. This is not sustainable.
Okay, after the launch of the app, can you describe the experience frontline officers have had with the app?
Extremely negative. We have a really hard time understanding why all of these questions in this app was really implemented the way it was, and all those questions were included in the app, when all we were doing at the border was verifying if someone was vaccinated. That could have been done simply by having a traveler show you their phone. As far as we know, no contact tracing was being done. It was a long, drawn-out process that a lot of people had difficulty completing, which we ended up at the border, as short-staffed as we are, rather than doing everything we could to fulfill our mandate and keep the border safe. We spent all our time almost acting as IT consultants, helping people complete the application.
Unreal. Do you have comments about CBSA's use of technology in general, and you know, has the focus been on improving working conditions for officers and travelers' experience, or do you see technology and automation being used primarily as a cost-cutting measure, which we clearly haven't seen here?
Yeah, it's absolutely being used as a cost-cutting measure. I mean, no piece of technology will speak to a child to ensure that they're traveling with the adult they should be traveling with. They're not going to find the synthetic opioids we want to keep out of Canada. They're not going to find the guns that are being smuggled into Canada. We need people to do all of those things. And it's not the first time that we see these kind of Band-Aid solutions with technology. It's the same principle that was applied when ABC machines were put into airports, PIC machines were put into airports, e-gates, remote reporting that we can't can't attend. ArriveCan is just another one of those, and they really provide the worst of both worlds in that they not only reduce security, they also slow things down.
Mr. Weber, I'm afraid that's our time for Mr. Johns. We're going to move on 5 minutes for Mr. Barrett, please.
Mr. Chair. So I'd just like to circle back to that initial phone call, just based on your staff size, and we've got 100% of the staff here. So someone, one of you gentlemen, took that call from the government, and I'm just very curious who was on the line and what their position was. Like that's critical information.
So again, I don't have that information right now. I mean, as I mentioned previously, I mean, we were already engaged and have been for a year prior to the pandemic, where we were providing similar sort of services to the CBSA. So whether it was a phone call or a conversation, they were engaged. They saw the team that we had. They saw that it was a similar skill set. They were available. They were Canadian cleared, and that's how it was explained.
So, and you've undertaken to provide that name to us. That's correct.
I said I will try my best to find it for you.
Thank you. So on your website, there's several endorsements from unattributed senior federal public servants, and they're quite glowing, to your credit, including a senior executive with the Government of Canada, VP Cloud Services, Major Crown Corp, Chief Information Officer, Government of Canada, Assistant Deputy Minister, Government of Canada, Chief Data Officer, Public Sector. Do you know who those officials are?
Not on me right now. I mean, these have been quotes that have been contributed to our website over 7 years since we started.
Okay. And would you be able to attribute those quotes in your submission, your written submission to the committee?
What was the purpose of this? Sorry, like why would that be necessary?
Oh well, it's important for us to understand why how this relationship came to fruition.
Yep. So would it again? Absolutely. I mean, but the fact that we were working there for a year, that would be not sufficient. That we were working on similar sort of engagements.
Nope. The names of them would be great.
Okay.
Thank you. At no time did you have any contact with ministers' offices or members of cabinet in any of these calls?
Nope.
Do you know of any benefits or hospitality that was received by anyone working for the Government of Canada from any of your subcontractors or from your organization?
I don't know it.
Okay.
Perfect.
And does your in this contracting process and in the development of ArriveCan, was Alex Benet involved in the development implementation of this process?
No.
Do you have any to follow up on Mr. Housefather, do you or any of your subcontractors have any connections to the Liberal Party of Canada, Data Sciences, Inc.?
No.
Okay. Do you have any subcontracts with frontline officers who are employed concurrently with the Canada Border Service Agency?
No.
In scoping out that work, the ArriveCan app has over 615,000 reviews on the Apple App Store, which is unbelievable. I've completed one app review in my entire life, so I'm shocked by this. Were you ever asked by anyone in government to increase the number of reviews for the app?
No.
Have you ever, do you know of, or have any of your subcontractors ever purchased reviews for?
I don't know. Again, I'm not technical. I'm an IT staffing company.
But
I've never had conversations that
okay.
outlay that.
Do you know if any of your other apps have ever received 600,000 reviews in the App Store?
I can tell you they haven't.
Okay. Okay. In the case study section of your website, there's a link to a video about ArriveCan, but the video is now private. Are you able to provide the committee with that video?
Did it identify as private, or was it just not up there?
It identifies as private.
I can get back to you with that answer. I could give you an answer in writing.
Okay.
I don't have the answer to that right now.
Okay. And so how much time do I have left, Mr. Chair?
We have 1 minute.
Okay. So there were a number of documents that I referenced, and I appreciate you acknowledging that the request was from the committee to the government to provide that information. So what I'm asking, instead of seeking the committee to pass a motion ordering production of those documents, I'd like to request, and you can tell me if you'd receive this request or if I should proceed with seeking the will of the committee, and that's for proof that subcontractors' work was done in Canada, proof that some contractors have current security clearances, the deliverables that were asked of, how much everyone was paid, the names of all subcontractors and delivery partners that you worked with, and the total amounts you received from the Government of Canada for the app. And I would gladly provide that in writing just in case there's anything missing. Would you be able to provide that back to the committee in writing?
Well, first of all, I'm going to show you that all the approved resources are from reputable organizations, and they all hold valid security clearances. I know you used my word, but we do have NDAs in place and confidentiality agreements with all of our subcontractors. But at this time, I mean, I can't disclose them right now.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I would move that the committee request the production of those documents.
Right.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate that the witnesses have come here today. They've provided the information that they can. They've articulated that they have some restrictions that prevent them from being able to offer it without being compelled to do so. And so I'm seeking to do that. I find it particularly important today, based on the information that CBSA has provided with respect to all of the funds that they've paid out. Doesn't match what vendors have been paid. And so it's going to be important that we get to see what private sector partners, what their side looks like, and then compare that to what the government side looks like. It's important to see where $54 million goes.
Mr. Housefather?
Mr. Chair, given that, again, we were supposed to be questioning the witnesses, and this is now taken away from the time of other parties to question the witnesses, may I ask that this discussion on the motion, hopefully with the agreement of Mr. Barrett, could be deferred to a certain point, such as 5:20, 10 minutes before the meeting ends, so that we can continue our questioning? And then we can also have time to get this in writing and read through it?
I understand what you're saying. I think my preference would be that we just settle this, go to a vote if necessary. It seems to be the will of the majority of the committee, and then we can get to the questioning, and hopefully Mr. Anthony, Mr. Firth, and Mr. Weber will be willing to stay till 5:30, and we can get through another round.
So, Mr. Chair, with respect, I would like to see this motion in writing. Number one, I want to understand it better. We're talking about right now the amounts that this company has received, which is $9 million of the $54 million. It's not the $54 million, whatever that is. It's also documents that the government has already been asked for, and this is a duplication, and we're now asking a company with 2 employees to gather a mountain of documents within 10 days when the government departments are already doing this. I find it a little bit strange to ask for the same documents from 2 different parties. So I would like time to consider the motion, and I would like to see in writing what it says.
Yeah, since we have a hard stop at 5:30, I'm not inclined to do that. You put motion to adjourn the debate, and we can vote on it. But I understand what you're saying, but I think I sense the will of the committee to adopt this. I may be wrong, but we can put it to a vote and end it quickly, and then move on to the questions.
Just to add, I mean, there shouldn't be a concern. Mr. Housefather, has made it clear that we've already asked for these documents, so he shouldn't be opposed to us asking for these documents from them as well. So I don't see any reason why we don't just move on this and vote on it.
Mrs. Vinola, and then Ms. Kusi. Oh, sorry.
Now, I'm trying to understand. There are 2 questions that come to mind. Given that we've asked for the same documents from the government, why are we asking them a second time? And secondly, are we allowed to require a company to give us documents as a committee? I don't know the answer to that. Is it genuine? Are these frank and honest questions that I'm asking? Given that we've already requested the documents and we were told that we would discuss all of this once the analysis of the documents would be possible.
To answer the first question, yes, we can ask for the documents. And then Mr. Baird, if you want to answer her question on why, and then.
Yep, through you, Mr. Chair, in response to my colleague's question. Following today's report in the Globe and Mail, this is what's precipitated my my query to the witnesses, and now this document production request, and that's that the government said in this one example that Think On Inc. was given $1.2 million. So that's what That's what the parliamentary secretary signed in response to an order paper question. So CBSA did the analysis and said, here's the list of contracts, including $1.2 million to this organization. And the CEO of Think On Inc. today says he got $0. So it's important to see the government saying one thing and private company is saying, no, we don't know where that $1.2 million went. We didn't get it. So we are looking for a second document set to compare to what the government is offering. And so that's the rationale. It's just, it's transparency, and I think it's important. Thanks for the question.
Mr. Johns, the Mr. Housefather.
I have seen no problem asking for this information. You know, government are tenants, you know, of public procurement, and it requires transparency. And this is public dollars. So diving into a private company that's got a contract with public dollars, I have no issue with whatsoever.
I think there's two different issues here. Number one, whether or not we go ahead and adopt the motion. And again, I think that it would be good order to have the motion in writing in both languages so that people can actually read it. I think that the normal custom of this committee has been that we talk to each other about our motions in advance, we share them, and we don't come up with them at the meetings at the last minute and nobody's seen what they actually say. That would be number one. Number two, again, the amount in question that my colleague is referring to is not related to the amounts paid to this company, so there's not going to be any divulgation from this company that is going to deal with the $1.2 million clearly, because it's a different document that the Border Security Agency gave. And they've made very clear they have no relationship with that third-party company. The third thing, Mr. Chair, and this is where I really, I guess, have an issue, we adopted a motion on Monday, and we all agreed on what would be produced as part of that motion. And my understanding at the time was that we were not going to have witnesses on ArriveCan until we got the documents, and that we would be prepared with the documents for the witnesses. But then suddenly, again, without consultation, witnesses were invited for ArriveCan today on Thursday. So the documents were only supposed to be produced in 10 days after the Monday meeting. And my understanding, and that's what we discussed on Monday, was that the documents were going to come first, and then we would have the witnesses. So the reason today there is a request for duplication isn't related to what the government's provided. It's the government hasn't provided anything yet because we're 10 days, we're not at the deadline yet. So, you know, in the end result, should the company produce this, I'm not going to stand in the way if everybody else wants them to also produce it, but I don't think the sequencing makes much sense.
Okay. Mr. Jouari, for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses. Mr. Firth, you indicated that you are an IT recruitment firm, and you also talked about in your opening remark and responding to some of my colleagues about 150 releases, and you also said that you are not a technical developer or a programmer. So let's start at the top, and with full disclosure, I am or I was an IT consultant I ran a consulting firm, and I have extensive experience in program management, project management, as well as product development. So we understand someone called you based on your extensive relationship, at least dating back to 2015, and said, hey, look, we need these resources. Does at any point a conversation talked about, here's the scope of the overall project, and these are the resources that we need, and you said, I can get you guys these resources. So do you have, as an IT recruitment firm, have an understanding of the overall project scope and the scope of the piece that were asked to you and your organization for staffing?
So first off, this was not a relationship. We got the business from 2015. We were currently in the organization doing similar sort of work in 2019. So that's why we were approached, because we already had similar sort of skill sets to what they were looking for. But no, we are not, unfortunately, I don't have the intellect that you do surrounding like technology. But what we do have is the government came to us with a list of requirements, statement of work, and exactly what the tasks and deliverables would have been for each resource. So that way, at that point, we were finding the resources. We weren't.
Okay. Can you at the very high level? Thank you for that response. Can you at very high level give us an understanding of what are some of those key requirements, the top 3 requirements, and the scope of what was your company was asked to resource?
So you notice like there's different categories per resource for what we had. So you'd have had iOS and Android developers, which involved some wireframing involved, which is essentially building to see what the shell would look like. And then we had some technical architects, mobile architects, which would have worked alongside the federal government or taken direction for the overall architecture of the front end. And then you'd have the web application developers, which would do the same for the web as the mobile developers would do for the mobile.
Okay, so that's at least 3 areas that you were asked to provide resources. So can you explain how does the 150 releases come into the picture that you said your staff has provided 150 releases? Can you expand on that?
So there's 3 platforms. There's the iOS, there's the Android, and there's the web. Every time there was a change in law or there was something that happened, as again, the pandemic was always changing, objectives were always changing throughout those 2 years. Typically, sometimes some of those things required the functionality or the workflow of the app to change, to take any, whether it was proof of vaccination, whether there was, or if there was an accessibility issue. Again, every time these things had to be fixed, they had to be fixed on all 3 platforms. So that's why I think the web was around 40, the Android needed about 60, and the iOS about 70 different releases as a result of all of those things, unforeseens.
Okay. Can you talk about who actually managed the overall project or the overall program?
That would be the CDSA.
Okay, so
The federal government.
the federal government had project manager. At no point your organization was asked to provide project management in there.
No, we were not responsible for direction of the project, the objectives, or, like I said, budgeting or cost control.
So during regular program updates or project updates, which is usually weekly, were your organization or any of your members involved in providing project updates aside from the tasks that they were assigned to them?
I cannot speak to every single resource's day-to-day activities. We're not in the trenches with those. Again, we're an IT staffing firm, but I'm assuming as part of the delivery team taking direction from project leads or employees, they would be facilitating those requests.
Okay. And just on the notes, and the 9 million of the 54 million is about 16%. Can you
Sorry, it was approximately 9 million.
Approximately 16%.
The government has for the exact
How much
numbers.
of the scope do you think your resources covered
Of the 9 million?
And just a quick,
of the 54 million?
and a quick answer, please.
Well,
Thank you.
I can tell you we built approximately $9 million
Of the app.
Of the app. Yeah, we didn't build ArriveCan, like I mentioned. We were responsible for certain requirements of the ArriveCan application.
Oh,
Thank you.
collecting the requirement.
Ms. Vinola, 2.5 minutes, please.
Okay.
Rapidement, Monsieur.
Briefly, Mr. Furth. Of the $9 million, did you have to pay the individuals that you recruited or their salaries, or were their salaries coming from a different budget?
We paid all the resources or the subject matter firms we received them from directly to those.
OK. Et votre organisation.
Was your organization only responsible for programming the application? Or did you also have to manage promoting the application?
We were not involved, as an organization, we were not involved in any of the day-to-day activities or the project management for the application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Merci.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask Mr. Weber a question. Mr. Weber, you mentioned that border officers had all kinds of trouble with ArriveCan. I heard that people wouldn't complete the application and your officers had to help them, and then those clients would get a notice to quarantine. How could the resources of border services been better used in this case? How could we have used them so as to respect the elderly individuals or people who simply don't have a smartphone or a cell phone, how could your services have been better used when it comes to ArriveCan or the pandemic in general?
Thank you for the question. Our services could have been better used by having us actually do the job that we're there to do at the border. In terms of enforcing public health measures, the only requirement that we saw that was being fulfilled through the ArriveCan app practically is showing that someone is vaccinated, which again, could have been done by someone showing us their phone, by someone showing us a printed out piece of paper showing that they're vaccinated. All the additional questions and all the time and all the difficulties that people had, and you mentioned elderly people, people without the technology available to them, people who simply didn't understand a lot of those questions, which to be honest, were complicated for someone who doesn't work at a border in many cases. There really wasn't any need for any of that, which kind of takes away the need for the app altogether. Really, the few number of officers we have at the border should have been concentrating on doing our border officer work rather than that.
And I'm afraid we're out of time. Mr. Johns for 2.5 minutes, please.
You know, knowing that the ArriveCan is now a voluntary one, do you think it's worth taxpayers' dollars to continue to invest in its ongoing maintenance?
I don't think there is whatsoever. No, we have so many other more pressing needs. I mentioned a few of them before. We don't really look at rail, marine. We're examining a small fraction of what we should be. Land borders that are, I mean, some of them are falling apart. I could give you an example. In Hamilton, we have a port of entry with 100 officers sharing one washroom. We're talking some really desperate situations. Some places where I hear of 4 officers doing the job of where just a couple years ago there were 20. We need people, and the situation we have now is not sustainable. The money that's being put into the border has to be put into personnel.
Okay, we know there was major cuts under the Conservatives at CBSA. The Liberals promised to rehire people. Now you're saying that it's even dwindling further. Can you give us a snapshot of where we're at and what we need?
As I said, overall numbers, I could give you 2,000 to 3,000, but specific numbers, I could give you some examples at some ports. For example, Toronto Pearson Airport, our busiest airport in Canada. 2017, we were approximately 600 frontline officers. We're under 300 now. We're at less than half. Montreal, 2019, we were at 260 at Trudeau Airport. We're under 200. Vancouver International Airport, 2009, we were at 181. We're down to 77.
Right.
Land borders, the situation is really not better. Rainbow Bridge, we're short about 100 officers. These are not small numbers. We're dealing in many places with half or less than what we need. It makes the job of keeping our border safe really almost impossible.
So this app that went from $80,000 to $54 million could have hired 500 of those officers that you need. I just want to say to Mark Weber and to all CBSA staff, and thank you so much for your patience and your work. And I'm very sorry that you've had to endure this difficult challenge at the border on top of the staffing shortages that you already face.
Thanks, Mr. Johns. We have 2.5 minutes, Ms. Kusi, 2.5 Mrs. Block, and then 5 minutes for Mr. Kamerschuk. I'm mispronouncing that. I apologize.
Okay, thank you, Chair. How many government RFPs would you say you've participated in the span of the creation of your company?
50?
50, okay.
Maybe.
And how many of those were during the pandemic? Was it a single sole source contract that you received to do the $44 million across all of those applications? Or was every single application a separate contract, a separate contract?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Yeah, sure. So when you said you received approximately $44 million to design a number of applications over the pandemic.
No, sorry, we invoiced the federal government. Not all of those were applications. That was some existing contracts we already had in place.
Okay.
So our revenue, our invoice, our accounts receivable would have been $44 million over those 2 years.
Okay.
That's over 20 departments too, right?
Okay, $44 million over the 2 years. So then the ArriveCan app contract, that was treated as a sole source application, would you say? Or was it a series of subcontracts that you distributed as a middle person through other? Were you required to run other RFPs in-house to distribute to your subcontractors?
No, because I mean, originally the first contract that the government approached us for was a $2.3 million COVID-19 pandemic response
Okay.
that had mobile capabilities, right?
Okay.
So then subsequently, as everyone, nobody thought the pandemic was going to last for 2 years. So then subsequent amendments came to those contracts as the objectives grew and the functionality had to grow as well of the application.
Okay, and the amount grew. So then was there a new RFP? Was the RFP adjusted or was the contract adjusted every time, or did you?
It was amended. It was amended
Every time. Okay, and if it was in fact a sole source, was it used under one of the exemption clauses, such as a natural disaster, for example, or in getting the initial contract, were you required to respond to an RFP?
It was through the national security exemption.
Through the national security exemption. Okay, that's significant. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to both of you for being here today. It's been a very enlightening conversation. I guess I want to go back to the fact that you have confirmed that you are responsible for assembling the team that would care or that would actually do the work of building this program, this app. And what I'm wondering is, how do you actually guarantee the integrity of the supply chain?
So we propose a team that needs to be accepted. We don't just give the team over and assume that there's been no evaluation or background checks. These guys have worked in the government in previous, many other projects that have proven to be successful. Again, we are proposing a team. We're not telling the government who they should use. Every resource is evaluated and determined whether or not they are suitable for each of their individual tasks and responsibilities.
So on your website, you state that GC Strategies' approach is to align themselves with one or multiple innovative and emerging technology firms and offer their services as a true solution, ensuring cohesiveness and overall accountability for delivery. What does that mean?
So when we go to a client, we were approached to do a project. At that point, like in this example, we did use 2 or 3 different subject matter firms to help deliverable with different pieces. There was an accessibility piece, then there was the application development piece. And so with us proving and bringing forward best in class, there's the evaluation period is shorter because, again, they have things they can look at and previous work they can review to see if they have the right people. And again, the reality is all of these resources are evaluated and can either be turned away or can be accepted.
So in terms of ensuring cohesiveness and overall accountability for delivery, if you're not responsible for who the team is that gets assembled, how do you ensure
So cohesiveness would
delivery?
be, they may have worked previously on other projects together, and accountability is if one of the people needs to be replaced or if it will help with, like, delivery is faltered because there's a weak link or there's 2 people in there that we would replace those people to make sure the delivery of that project is still successful.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Block. Mr. Kamirstruck? Butchered her name. I apologize.
It's passable. Yeah, thank you, Chair. I wanted to lend my voice and echo what my colleague across the table had stated, and to say thank you to the CBSA agents, the frontline workers at our borders that really stepped up to the plate in a big way, kept our community safe, and helped move traffic along as well too across the border. Essential services, essential workers, and essential traffic. So I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Weber. Please do pass along our sincerest thanks to your members. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned about the need to consult, so sort of looking forward. Can you describe ideally the consultations that could have been carried out, what that looked like, and maybe what insights could it have or would it have yielded in this particular case?
Thanks for that. I think what the consultation could have achieved is for us to share with the developers and the plan in general, ArriveCan App, what the reality would be on the ground. What would happen when the lineups became long, when people arrived without having completed the app, when they got to ports where there was nowhere to put cars that hadn't completed it, where they had to stay in line, ports that did not have Wi-Fi accessibility. That there are so many different individual permutations and specificities with each port that were really not looked at whatsoever, as well as a lot of the questions like, are you a Canadian citizen or a non-citizen with the right of entry, asking for the address of the hotel that people are staying at. Not many travelers know that. So these are all things where travelers would be stuck waiting in line trying to complete all of this, us helping them. I think that kind of thing could have really been addressed had we been consulted from the get-go on how this should be rolled out.
Okay, thank you very much for that response and that insight, Mr. Weber. And question now back to Mr. Anthony, Mr. Firth. Can you talk about whether your company was it all sole sourced, the contracts that you had with the federal government, or were there competitive bids as well too that your company was successful?
This was the first sole source contract or contract we were approached for in our 7 or 8 year career with GC Strategy. So every single other one was competitive.
Okay. Now, how many contracts would that be? Competitive contracts, just ballpark figure.
Well, there's some which are pro services contract, which are smaller, with 150, 55.
Okay. So you've won a lot of competitive bids.
Yes.
Where your company was measured up against other companies and you came out on top.
Yeah, I mean, there are tier 2 RFPs that go out to 250 others qualified vendors.
So you mentioned the fact that we are, you said we are good at what we do. Can you just describe again, because I think for a lot of Canadians, we're just learning about what IT staffing companies do exactly. Can you describe your specialization? What sets you apart? So, and why was that important in this context?
Yeah, so we've spent, like I said, between my business partner Darren and I, we have 30 years where we have experience dealing with IT companies, whether we're dealing with independent consultants or have had the luxury of dealing with like true subject matter firms. That's allowed us to build a network where we have people that have, we know the people who have failed and we know the people who have been successful. And that allows us to keep the list of people that are successful close to our hearts and build a strong network. So then when it comes to opportunities where we are brought in to do some work, we know that we're getting best in class and we know we're getting people that are reliable and who have delivered multiple times before.
What made this challenge unique and why was it important, again, knowing the right people, right person, right time? Why was this particular challenge unique? What made this project unique? And why was it important, again, to have your particular expertise here?
I think it was just the speed things were changing and how the team had to pivot constantly with requests or different laws being approved and other things, functionality moving. I think it was every day was a moving target. There was never, they were never bored. Again, there was just a lot of things that were changing constantly. So knowing the people that are not complacent or compliant with sitting and just doing one job, but being prepared to wear many hats and stepping up and doing, working weekends, doing long evenings, because again, we didn't miss a deadline. The team worked for 2 years and hit every deadline. And again, like I mentioned, in over 150 releases of the application.
I'm going to stop you. That's 10 minutes, or that's 5 minutes on the dot.
Thank you.
Witnesses, thank you very much for spending the time, for your patience while we worked out our technological issues, and for the information provided. As always, if there's information requested, please forward it to the clerk. If there's items that were not brought up, like that you would like to add, again, please submit in writing to the clerk. Thank you very much, and we are adjourned. And I appreciate your patience for my first day today, folks. Thank you.